vous êtes complètement perdu avec les verbes say et tell en anglais. C'est normal, la différence n'est pas du tout évidente, mais aujourd'hui, je vais complètement clarifier la différence pour vous. Bienvenue dans un nouvel épisode de l'anglais en petits morceaux. Vous pouvez retrouver en description un PDF avec un résumé de cette leçon ainsi qu'un petit quiz, mais sans plus tarder, let's start. So, let's start by talking about why these two verbs are difficult in the first place, and that is for two main reasons. First of all, because in French, we only have one word for these two situations, dire. Tell me, dis-moi, ne le dis pas, don't say it. And secondly, because sometimes they can be used in the same way. And I think that can make them even more confusing, but we'll see that in a minute. Next, I wanted to share with you my perspective as a native speaker, the inherent difference that I feel, the difference between these two words. So it is a really nuanced difference. Let's start with say. So say, by itself, without to, focuses more on really the physical act of a word coming out of your mouth. For example, I can say something all alone at my house and nobody really has to hear it. I'm not talking to anybody. Or even in written form, an email or a text message might say something, but that focuses more on what is physically written on the page. It doesn't mean that somebody has actually received that information. Tell, on the other hand, must be used with somebody who receives that message. It really focuses on the transfer of information. So we've seen why these words can be difficult and the subtle difference between them. Now let's see how to construct a correct sentence with both of them. So starting with say is really often used by itself. He said hello. My brother never says thank you. Now here's the tricky part. Say can also be used with the person who receives the message. But here we must add to. He said hello to the teacher. My brother never says thank you to my parents. Tell, on the other hand, must include a recipient or somebody who receives or hears the information, but we never add to before that person. I think a good way to remember this is that tell starts with T, so you can imagine that the to is already contained within the word. So let's see an example of all of these used correctly in a sentence. That's what he said. That's what he told us. That's what he said to us. So now we can construct a correct sentence, but in which context do we even use each of these verbs? So let's start with number one, which is direct speech. This is when we quote exactly what somebody has said with inverted commas or quotation marks, and this is really, really common in books. Here, most commonly, we are going to use say. Hello, she said. Welcome to Paris, said Catherine. We can sometimes use tell in direct speech, but be careful here. It needs to be instructions, a command, or kind of a fact, some information. For example, go to bed, she told the children. This is a command. I've never been to Europe, she told him. This is a fact, but we wouldn't say, he told her hello. This is not really information, it's just a greeting. So when in doubt, just use say. The second context where we often use say and tell is in reported speech. This is when we don't quote exactly what somebody said, but we report it. Let's see an example. Imagine that someone said, I'll call you tomorrow. I could report, she said that she would call me tomorrow, or she told me that she would call me tomorrow. But be careful here. Tell should again only be used with information or commands. We wouldn't really say, he told the woman thank you. That's not really information. It's more just expressing gratitude. So again, when in doubt, just use say. Still on the topic of reported speech, but this is a bit of a subtopic. When we report commands or instructions, we should only use tell. Here we can use the structure tell plus the person we tell plus a verb with to. She told me to water the plants. She told you not to do that. So those are the two main contexts where we would often use say and tell, but unfortunately there are some exceptions, specifically with the word tell. I told you that tell always needs to have somebody who receives the information. However, this is not the case when we use tell with some nouns. For example, to tell a joke. He loves telling jokes. To tell a story. We told stories all night. To tell a lie. You shouldn't tell lies. To tell the truth. You must tell the truth in court. And to tell the time. When did you learn to tell the time? We can also use tell to describe when we know or notice something. For example, can you tell the difference? Est-ce que tu peux faire la différence? Can you tell that I'm tired? Est-ce que ça se voit que je suis fatiguée? No, I can't tell. Non, j'ai pas remarqué. So now, let's do a quick exercise. If you know the answers, write them in the comments. What did he to you at the party? He, me, to email his boss. I hope this has clarified things for you. Remember that you can download a summary of this lesson with a quiz in the description. If you do enjoy these lessons, please subscribe and let me know, are there any other words in English that you find confusing? Tell me in the comments. Don't say me. Never say me. Bye.